Alright everyone, I'm back to give you this third Walking Dead review of the day. I don't know if to do 3 of them in a day, but I figured I'd do it this time. Um, this is probably going to be my last one of the day because I've pretty much been watching the show for like an hour, and sometimes there's only so much I can handle of watching the same show. Um, It would be like this with any other show too. Don't think it's just that I don't like the show. Sometimes there's only so much of the show I can handle. It happens with any show. Um, and this one was called 18 Miles Out, and it was season 2, episode 10, and it came out on February 26th, 2012. Um, and this actually was a really good episode. I really liked this one. It starts out with a future look, like a look into the future instead of the past, and it shows Shane Rick um, running away from walkers, because I guess, and there was like a bunch of them when they were at like a high school, I think, because Shane gets into a school bus and blocks them, so because there's like a bunch of them coming at him, so they can't get him. Um, and then it cut to the theme song. So I think this took place at like some sort of high school or something. Um, and there was that guy that don't know his name yet. They may have said it. I just don't remember it because I'm terrible at remembering names, as you could tell with Andrea. Um, and they may have said his name. They may not have. But it's the guy that they were gonna that they saved last time that only has one leg, and he is trying to like claw and get a knife. Um, and you're gonna find out more what's going on. Because then it cut to the theme song, and this is before all this stuff I just said just happened. And Rick and Shane are driving because they're gonna take this guy and just leave him out there um, with like some protection, and they're gonna go 18 miles out. Um, and Rick and but Rick stops early, um, and Shane's like, "Why are we stopping?" And he says, "I want to talk." And Shane at first thinks he wants to talk about the plan, and he's like, "No, we don't need to talk about that. I want to talk about the plan." He's like, "It's not about," and then it's like, "It's not about that. It's about what's going on. It's about what happened that night at the high school, referring to what happened with Otis." And he's like, "Did you just do that to survive?" And he says, "Yeah." He says he wanted to make sure that him and Carl was safe, and he talked about how Otis wasn't meant for this world anyways. Um, and Rick says that he would have done the same thing, and he's like, "No, you wouldn't have. You're too much of a good person." He's like, "I'm not. No, I'm not anymore. Um, I built. Um, I would do whatever it takes to protect my unborn child, my wife, and my son." And he talks about, because he says that you may not think I can protect my family. Um, and he talked about, "I know about your lawyer. I figured it out pretty quickly." And he said he wanted to break his jaw, but it took a lot of strength for him not to do that. And Rick says that he may think that you don't you may think you love her, but you don't. And he also says that he that it's his wife, his unborn child, and his son. Um, and then he says and we're not going to leave here now until we come to an understanding, which I guess they did because he left and he didn't really give an answer. Um, and then they drive away. Um, and when they're driving, um, I think Shane saw a walker, and Rick was telling a story about well, he thinks that because I think it's winter's coming up in their world, because I think a week's only gone by. I think Shane's like, I think Rick said, "I waited a week to talk to you about this." So It was either a week, but there's no way it probably was. It was probably about like some days, but he probably found out about this a week ago. Because I don't know how much span of time goes by in the TV shows. I never do with any TV show, unless they tell us. And then, but anyhow, but yeah, Rick talks about that the zombies probably slow down. Well, the walkers slow down when it gets winter because they're cold. Um, and he talked about some sort of story with his cousin, but Shane zones out and sees this walker and he doesn't say anything. Um, why, I don't know. And they talked about too if that when it comes to the walkers, if there's only one, they're gonna just use their knives instead of the guns, obviously, since it won't attract the noise, which makes perfect sense. Um, and then back at the farm, Lori and Maggie's talking to Lori about what happened with Glenn, saying he's not himself. He's not doing. He's blaming me for the reason he froze. And Lori's like, that's what men do. They blame the woman for the reason they freeze or die or they have to go out there. And we just put up with it, and we either tell them to man up, but we don't actually say it. And she was making food for Beth, who was the one in shock. Um, and she puts in the food and says, later on, we're going to go out for a walk. Um, and she's just so depressed that she's like, why did you have a baby? Why did you put him in this world? She's like really depressed. Um, and then Rick and Shane get to that school I talked about, and I guess they have to get in, and they see a walker. It was like a police officer, which was strange, and Rick cuts his hand so that way he'll follow the his blood, and he stabs it, and Shane does this. Well, Shane stabs the other one, because there was another one. We don't actually see it because, well, we should just know that it happened. It's common sense. And then they take that guy with one leg, and he was in like a blindfold, and they tied up his legs and his hands. They tied his hands behind his back and his legs together, and they also put headphones in his ears. Um, and they were just gonna leave him here, and he's like, "No, come on, I don't want to leave him here. I'm not like those other guys. I can't face me alone. That's why I was in a group." And he just goes on telling them because they were just walking away, Rick and Shane, and says, "You can't just leave me here. I'll die. I'm a nice guy. I can protect you." And then he says, "I went to school with Maggie." Well, he also says, and I know her father. I got to church with her. So then they pause and it's like, "You know Maggie?" He's like, "Yeah, I went to. She didn't know me, but I went to high school with her, and I know her and her father." And that means he knows where the farm is. So that means he'll tell her where the other guys are. And then Shane says that we have to kill this guy, and Rick says, "No, we're not going to kill him. We'll just bring him back." And Shane's like, "We're not going to bring him back." Um, and Shane tries to shoot him, but then Rick stops him. So the gun goes off, and at first I thought the walkers were going to come out from the earlier scene. And then Rick and Shane start fighting. And at first, Shane's just kicking Rick's ass. Um, and he busts him open. He ended up busting Shane ended up busting Rick open when he headbutted him, and then he threw him into a motorcycle, and then he dropped the motorcycle onto Rick's leg, and he was about to kill that guy, but then Rick somehow got the motorcycle off, and I guess it didn't hurt him too bad, but whatever, and he attacks him, beats him up. And then Shane gets busted open, and I think Shane fought him off and tried to throw a wrench at him, but it ended up going through a window. And then you see a walker's hand start to take down the remains of the window, and try to go after Rick, but Rick stabs it with a knife. And then we just see a bunch of zombies come out, and yeah, so it all becomes very, it all goes downhill from there. And I was thinking too, because it's not like they're at 100%, because Rick and Shane just beat the crap out of each other, and they have a guy that's tied up with one leg. So it's not like they're at 100%. And then back at the farm, Lori walks in, and Beth didn't need anything, so she left, came back in, and I guess Beth had opened the drawers, and I guess there was a knife under there, so she was gonna commit suicide, and she takes it from her and says, "You don't want to do that," or something, and later on, her and Andrea, well, Maggie comes in, because she had told Maggie, and she said that you shouldn't have done that. You wanted to really do that with me and Dad. I should tell Dad. He's like, what would he do? Kill me for committing suicide? That was actually a pretty good line. And they bicker back and forth, and then Andrea and Lori are downstairs, and Andrea says, "You shouldn't have done that, Lori. It wasn't the right thing to do. You should let her make her own choices, like Dale did, because Dale did the same thing for me when he took my gun." And Lori says, "Well, suicide shouldn't be an option," and stuff like that. And says, "What do you even do for this group? You don't do anything." And she's like, "I keep watch for the walkers." And she says, "You should leave all that to the men. We should be helping me cook and clean and stuff. We got a ton of stuff for you to do." And Andrea's like, "What kind of world is that?" Pretty much, she's not interested in doing that. And Lori says that we do that for hope. We want to make sure that there's a peaceful world. And Andrea's like, "What do you know about hope? You take your life for granted." Then Lori's like, "My husband is out there fighting, goes out there 100 times and fights, and my son was shot, so don't talk to me about taking my life for granted." And then Andrea talks about how she has people there, how she has a husband, a wife, and a son, and then and she had a husband come back from a dead, a son, and a unborn child, and then how she had a boyfriend, and that I guess pissed Lori off so much she didn't say anything. And then back at the school, Rick and finds a gun underneath a car and shoots one of the walkers, but he's like so weak he can't really get like a direct shot at him. He misses one, and then the funny thing is the walker fell on him, and then he does another one, and another walker falls on him, and then there's another walker that comes, and he can't like get a direct shot at it because the walker's made a pig pile on him. So he put the gun in one of the walker's mouth, and it splattered, and it ended up killing him. And then he got out of the predicament that he was in, and then he didn't have a gun anymore. And then the guy with one leg ended up escaping all that stuff, by the way, and then he had killed a walker by stabbing it. And then he tried to escape, but Rick catches him, and the guy's like, "Why don't we just get out of here? He can fend for himself." And Rick doesn't go anywhere at first. He's like, "What? We're not gonna get out of here? We're not gonna leave? Um, all right, then give me a gun." And then Rick's like, "Okay, let's get out of here." And Shane's like, and then Shane sees him like, is like, "Oh, come on, Rick." So it was like deja vu. Shane did the same thing to Otis, and now the same thing's being done to Shane. I thought actually they weren't gonna come back for Shane. And then so then Shane cuts himself open a little bit and puts his blood on like the bus door. And when every time the door opens and the walker tries to get in, he stabs it, and two of them did that. And then back at the farm, when Maggie was in there, actually Beth wanted Maggie to commit suicide with her. She wanted to be right there with her, and Maggie's like, "Stop that! You're talking crazy." And then she sends Andrea in, and Andrea keeps watch of her, which I knew was a mistake. And Beth's like, what words are you gonna say? What advice are you gonna say to me? And Andrea's like, none. All you have to do is when you're in pain, make room for more pain. So you can see where this is going. And then when and then Lori and then Maggie gets in, and we hear Beth, I think in like the closet, and we hear her screaming in pain, and they can't open the door because I guess this is like an old house and they had like a key to it, and they couldn't get it. So Lori grabs like a crowbar or something and opens it, and we see that Beth had stabbed her in the arm, in the well, like in this area of her hand, I guess the wrist, where the vein would be. And Maggie's pissed that she did that. You said you should have watched her, and Andrea said, but she made her own decision. She survived. She made that choice. And Maggie says never to come back in the house again, and never come near me or Beth again. And Lori said, I know what she did was wrong, but she did make her own decision. And then afterwards, Maggie doesn't say anything. And then back at the school, Rick grabs a bunch of guns, and he Shane's back and still trying to keep the zombies from getting inside the bus. And Rick comes in with the guy with one leg driving the car, and Rick shoots like a bunch of walkers. And Shane goes out the back door of the bus, so he did come back with him. I was surprised. I thought that was good. And then Rick and Shane stop somewhere, and Rick says that he's going to have to kill this guy tonight, but it's not going to be an easy thing because killing someone isn't easy. You need to know that. And he says, that's my wife, that's my child, and my unborn child. Well, no, my wife, my son, and my unborn child. And you need to understand that, and if you want to come back, you need to follow my rules. And then he hands him a gun and says, like, welcome back or something. And then afterwards, he grabs the guy with one leg, and when it looked like he grabbed him, the guy with one leg, it was like he was grabbing a camera. I think he was like wearing some sort of like hat camo or something, because it looked like he was just grabbing a camera and putting it back in the trunk, and he reapplies all of the stuff he had, and that was it. And I thought this was an awesome episode. I liked the conflict between Rick and Shane, and that was probably the main thing I liked. There was other stuff. I did like the Beth stuff, how she's starting to get more depressed over and over, and that she made her own decision on to kill herself. The tension that Lori and Andrea had, and I thought that was good stuff. There wasn't a lot of people in this episode, but I didn't really think there need to be. I think that they didn't really, there's some people in this show that isn't needed, like T-Dog, but whatever. Because T-Dog doesn't really do anything. But anyhow, I really did like this episode, and I can't wait to watch it. I'm probably just going to wait till next week now, and maybe I'll do another 3. But this is good enough for now, and I'll be back tomorrow to do a Breaking Bad review. Definitely this time.